guys, this is Hudia with Elevated Classics. Today I have Manuel Cross here from Rogue Perfumery with me. Welcome, Manuel. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for making time. We kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit. I discovered your brand in New York. I was visiting Lucky Scent and I ended up buying quite a few bottles. As you can see, I'm a huge fan of vintage perfumery. And when I saw your perfumes, the bottles, the design, and then smelling these, and some of them they were out of stock, I would have actually bought more. But I was just so flabbergasted. I love your brand. So when I reached out to you, you said yes, you would talk to me. I was delighted. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, so let's start from the beginning. Tell me how you got here. How did you end up owning a perfume brand and becoming a perfumer?
Uh, I was an avid collector to begin with, and I was always scouring eBay looking for vintage fragrances. There's just a certain nostalgia that they bring, just especially things from like the early 80s. I mean, it just reminds me of, being a kid again. And we're just always, you're always looking for those little bits of memory that can come out of a bottle. And just got to a point where I was beginning to wonder like how do you put these things together? And I went out and purchased some, essential oils and I tried mixing and it was bad results. Yeah, there's a whole lot more than I thought, than just, mixing some lemon or some rose and you're gonna get some. Um, and that was the rabbit hole. I just kept at it, kept digging and digging and researching. There's a lot of information online. You have to try to sort out the misinformation. And it just came together little by little. I mean, it took nearly 9 years before I was able to first put together to Backvert and ship saying.
So what was that moment for you when you said to yourself, so you're going through this process of learning and making probably disastrous concoctions, and then that moment where you said, uh-huh, I got it. What was that moment for you?
It came in little bouts along the way, and that's mostly where I was beginning to figure out the way accords were put together. Um, you know, I, I I moved on from essential oils to discovering Perfumer's Apprentice, and I started buying, a lot of those raw materials, and I would get, like geraniol or citronella, and I'm smelling these. I'm just like, yeah, I can almost smell rose in this, but it's just little fragments. I'm just wondering what. So how do I put these all together into a complete fragrance or complete smell? It's almost like you're just looking at a little Lego and you're wondering like, okay, like I can kind of see the building in this, but you still have to piece that together. And it was just lots of trial and error and digging on the internet. And that was it. It was just doing it over and over. Uh, Annoyed the heck out of my wife, I'm sure, because I was spread all across the dining room table. But after about 9 years was when I was able to put these things together into a complete fragrance. And I'd say it took nearly another 6 months after that to kind of refine those into the complete fragrance that I wanted.
What was your first fragrance? What was it that you went in the market with?
The very first one was tobacco,
Nice, nice.
and the Super Siam was kind of working in the background, but that kind of came about almost by accident. But that tobacco was the one that I was really working on.
So what did you say? Was it people around you, friends and family that said, "Hey, you made something," and going from beyond a hobby to turn it into a commerce, a business, to turn it into a perfume house. What encouraged you to do that?
Um, I think it was just my excitement over actually putting that together. What I did was I started reaching out to various people on the fragrance forums, see if they'd be willing to, smell a sample just to, get their input, see what they thought. And then not too much later afterwards, I decided to go ahead and try to bottle and sell these things. And I was doing that on Etsy.
And
And
that's a pretty successful platform for artisanal perfumers, right? I didn't even know about that. Perfume was sold on Etsy until I watched an interview by you. I found you on, mass distribution, which is at Lucky Scent. But so that was a successful start for you. Etsy was welcoming to you.
it was that and the feedback from the forums because then they would start chattering and that really seemed to start the momentum. And I stuck with it. I mean, I was juggling that and my regular job at the same time. And what was it? Maybe I think it was about 2 years into it where I came to that crossroads. And it's like,
Mm.
the demand for the fragrances is it's really growing and it's kind of really pulling at what I need to do, with my regular job. And that's where I had to make the decision. And I took the leap.
And a good leap too. So you were a chef, right, before this?
I was, yeah. I started that. Well, I got out of high school in 93, went to culinary school. And by 90, late 97, I was working in kitchens and finishing culinary school. And yeah,
That's
it was a
awesome.
long journey. Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So you went with the traditional culinary path of getting your formal education. Did you
Yeah.
ever consider doing that for perfumery to go to school about this or get credentials? I don't even know if are there credentials for perfumers?
No, I mean, at the point that I was getting into, I would say, the hobby of learning to make fragrances. Um, I mean, I was so deep into work and, our regular mundane lives, there would never have been any time nor a chance. And it seemed like such an obscure thing. I always thought it was, something that's just far away over in Europe, somewhere where there would be such a school. I mean, I wouldn't have even known where to begin looking. And that's why I just decided to figure it out for myself.
And do you feel like that was a freedom, kind of setting your own path and not having those restrictions and rules and regulations that allow you to blossom and create something so well received by the fragrance community? Was that a help or was it a challenge for you?
Uh, it almost seems like it would be a help, huh? Because I mean, you have that absolute freedom. At the same time, I didn't have those parameters, and so a lot of it was feeling around in the dark, really.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. But that's an adventure on its own too. So I could see self-teaching, especially in this day and age where information is readily available, but you have to know where to get that information. So did you have any mentors that you reached out to in the fragrance community that helped you out at the beginning?
My mentor was Paul Kyler,
Mm.
and he has PK Perfumes. I met him on the Base Notes DIY forums, and I was living in California at the same time, and he was, let's see, about an hour away from me. So I would drive out there and we would spend time together. He had his lab. He has, I mean, a pretty huge lab. And yeah, he'd just let me tinker around and I got to pick his brain.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah. I mean,
Very
he was a
lucky.
huge
Uh-huh.
help. Yeah. And actually, you'll see a lot of my product photography was done by him as well because he's also a photographer.
Oh, nice. Is he still involved in your day-to-day life? Do you still reach out to him for advice and feedback?
Not so much these days. Ever since I moved, I mean, we'll probably talk on the phone, a couple of times a year, or chit chat back and forth online.
Yeah, but you're pretty independent now. You've been doing this for how long? So how long ago did you establish Rogue Perfumery? And can you tell me what your raison d'etre is? Like, why do you guys exist? How do you guys exist? Tell me more about your perfume house.
2017, it was in the summertime is when I first put those Etsy listings on, and it was later on that fall where things started taking off. And it actually happened pretty quick now that I think about it. I don't know how we started getting into retailers. I mean, I remember I reached out to a few and got no response. Um, I was sending fragrances to Acuacio Natural in Spain, They were one of our early retailers, and then shortly after that, I got in contact with Lucky Scent, and then they took us under their wing, and it just all took off from there. You know? I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, I started listing those things on Etsy in 2017, but it seemed like
Mhm.
by the beginning of 2018, I mean, everything was just moving so fast.
That's amazing. How
Mhm.
wonderful. This is good timing, right? It's perfect timing for you to be on the market. Right now, there's a gold rush going on in perfumery universally, right? Everybody's trying to get into the perfume industry. And what did they say? Some experts are saying between well, some are saying 6,000 perfume releases last year, and some are saying 9,000 perfume releases. How do you differentiate Rogue Perfumery from all that noise? And how do you guys keep yourselves like not caught in that stream of, that race that's going on in perfumery right now?
Just trying to stick to that main vision I had when I first started putting those listings on Etsy. Because when I first started putting up those listings, I mean, I had no idea it would have taken off as it did this quickly.
Hmm.
But there was a vision that I had for how I wanted the fragrances to be. I wasn't looking to do any kind of copycats. Rather, I was just really focused on some of those older aesthetics. But how can I use a lot of these, newer materials or newer ideas and still channel, those older aesthetics into the fragrances? Um, I just try to stick to that really.
Hmm.
But I have noticed, especially in the last few years, when you see how many fragrance brands are out there and how many newer ones it keeps on popping up. And it's an ocean of fragrance brands. And it just drives me even more to just keep working at what I do because I mean, if if I relax just a little bit, I'm just going to drown.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very, very crowded. So with just still talking about your early challenges and early beginnings, what were some of the biggest challenges other than the learning curve of 10 years, learning how to make perfume? Once you were on the market and started to sell, what were some of the biggest challenges for you?
Well, in putting together fragrances, I mean, I got to a point where I can start getting accords put together and it would seem mostly like a cohesive fragrance, but it just didn't seem to have that bloom, it's just that performance. Like if you walk into a department store and spray fragrance, I mean it's just gonna expand. And it seemed to be kind of missing that little bit. And that was some of the final things that I had to learn. Um, and all by trial and error.
Absolutely. That's the best way to learn, I guess, because you have to learn. So, perfumery, you work with a palette, just like you do with cooking, right? You have your ingredients and you have your palette. But it feels like the perfume palette is like limited and limitless all at the same time. And then there's compounds that are involved in it. It must be very hard to learn it independently and study in a structured way. Is there a system or I don't know, like channels and partners kind of a place where you can go and learn about these? Like, for example, when you're buying your raw materials and things like that, do you get education from the manufacturers that teach you about like the latest developments and things like that? I guess I asked you two questions here.
Well, um, I've seen it, like uh, you might get an email, an advertisement from Firmenich, and they have, such and such materials, and they'll speak about what they may be good for, but that's about it.
Mhm.
If anything, it's just going back online, going into the forums. There's the perfume making forum on Facebook that Paul Kyler runs, and there's a lot of good brains to pick.
Oh,
Um,
that's nice. Yeah.
so
So there is a support system.
yeah,
Oh, that's wonderful. Where do you source your materials?
Perfumer's Apprentice. There's Perfumer Supply House is another one. Sometimes I'll order direct from like Vigon or those companies. And gosh, that's about it. Even botanicals is really good for high quality naturals.
Are they all US based companies?
They are, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you don't go the route of the big F&F companies like Firmenich, Robertet, Givaudan. You don't buy material from them.
I will use those. I will use their materials, but as they filter through our
Hmm.
distributors here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that said, you have your suppliers, you have your distribution. Is there somebody that handles your distribution now, or are you still a single man shop? Like, do you have, what does your team look like?
It's my wife and myself.
I
And
love it.
yeah, it's just the two of us. Gosh, yeah, we're all set up downstairs. Um, what should be the guest room is actually a storage room for packing supplies, and I have like chemical storage. All the downstairs is pretty much our workshop now. And yeah, the mixing, bottling, the labeling, fulfillment, yeah, it's all done here.
It's all you guys, the two of you.
Yeah.
And how is it working with your spouse? Is that, I mean, my husband works in his own job. I can't imagine. I think we would kill each other. How do you guys do that? How do you make it work? Uh, does it have its challenges or is it mostly smooth sailing?
It's yeah, I mean, it I would say it's smooth sailing. I mean, we've worked together a lot. We met in cooking school, so we've worked in the same industry, and a lot of times we would end up working at the same restaurant or hotels, and we even had our own catering company for about 8 years. It was just the two of us running it, and it almost seems like an extension of that. And I think it does too, my wife as well, because when we get stacks of orders or the retailers are hitting us at the same time that we have all of our direct orders, um, she she organizes everything as if it were a catered event.
I love it. So
And
she's operational.
she is very, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So you're the creative. Does she get involved in the creative process too?
No,
Yeah.
she leaves that to me.
That's nice. So you guys have like separation of duties. That's how you make it work. That's wonderful. So your creative process, when you are thinking, I'm going to make a new perfume, how does it start for you? Is it from something you smell like a source material, like I really want to use this pepper or this rose oil, or is it a past memory, or is it another perfume that you loved from your vintage collection? How does it inspire you? How do you get inspired? And then what's your process? How do you work through developing a perfume?
It can happen in a few different ways. One could be, yeah, just smelling a material and, just what does it remind me of? And if it does remind me of that, what pushes it more in that direction? Or, what would oppose it and make it more interesting? I mean, that can be one way, or sometimes it seems weird, but I guess it would just be an idea of an accord.
Mhm.
And then I'll be walking around half the day wondering, like, well, what would such an accord consist of, to smell that way? Like, it seems weird to kind of smell something in your mind, but that's another way. Or if there is like an older vintage fragrance that I remember, you know, I'll ask myself, like, well, what is it that you remember most about it?
Mm.
And like, how can I put something like that together, not duplicating it, but rather um, that just kind of gives that same nostalgic feeling.
I love that.
It's a number of things that go on at once, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I say it out loud, and it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it just seems to work.
Yeah. So you have to be both the scientist and the artist. What percent of your work is each, right? Perfumery is that one unique profession where you need both, right? Or do you?
I just have like a very kind of peripheral understanding of the chemistry, and that's where I'll need to go online a lot too. Just look what people are talking about in the forums because you do have um some really smart cookies and with those chemistry backgrounds. And you can just see what they have to say about certain materials or certain chemical groups. Or there's also what's that website called? It's like everybody's lifeline, I would say, that's in perfumery. And how can I forget the name of it? The Good Sense Company.
Mm,
It's just a directory of basically any aroma chemical that exists out there and all
hmm.
the chemical properties of it.
So
And
you really get to the knowledge of it and the experience of it.
yeah, and then
That's,
just and it's tinkering from there on.
yeah. How long does it take you to make a new perfume?
It can take many times, I mean, a good year. My most recent one, Bonded, um, I spent over a year.
I
Yeah,
have it.
that one right there.
Yeah.
I
So over
spent
a year.
I spent over a year, and at that point, after that year, I kind of had kind of the chords down that I wanted, and kind of the rough draft of the fragrance, and it took about another 4 months after that to
Wow.
get it refined into the fragrance that I wanted to put out.
So can you tell me a little bit about Bonded?
Bonded, yeah. I just wanted to capture the fragrance of whiskey, but have it work in a fragrance format. Yeah, I've mentioned, the imagery of like a piece of oak moss, tincturing in a glass of bourbon. And that was the imagery that was in my head. And that's that was the image that stuck in my head through the whole creative process of putting Bonded together. Although nearly the first part of that whole year that went into it was trying to create what I would consider a realistic bourbon accord. I didn't want to do something that smelled kind of overly sweet and vanilla-y. I wasn't looking to do one of these sweet gourmand type of fragrances. I want it to be like true to life, but not so much so that you don't want to smell like a wino in public, because of your fragrance.
I was just going to say that I don't want to smell like an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So,
Yeah.
but you got a very nice balance of that.
And that one is actually quite a favorite of mine lately too. And not just because it's mine, but it just kind of pushes a lot of those buttons for me. It has a bit of, some of that, it has like a vintage touch to it. And it's definitely not gourmand, although I guess you can say it kind of leans in that direction. And I don't know, I just enjoy it.
It is beautiful. It leans masculine. I ended up
That's
giving this to my husband on my skin. I liked, well, I mean, it's all personal preference, right? I like the florals. Your florals are insane. These are crazy. I smelled the jasmine there, and I told the girl, I said, did somebody just slap me? Because that's what it felt like to me. It was so bold and strong, and that's how I like it. So I ended up giving, I think Darvish is really popular too, right?
that one is, yeah.
Yeah. Why did you name it Darvish?
Um, well, this one is the second version. That's Dervish
This is
2.
two.
And then
Yes.
there is the first one. And I named it that because it sounded it sounded interesting, it sounded a little mysterious, but it also had a lot of the like the resinous like labdanum and tobacco notes, just kind of swirling around there. I wanted to do something that would be like those kind of old Oriental type fragrances. And I wanted to kind of merge it with what you're smelling coming from like a lot of the Arabic perfume houses, this kind of like big and powerful fragrances. And I kind of merged the two ideas together, and that's how the first Dervish came about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I smelled the first one too. I believe I smelled it there. I picked up the second one. Um, I actually like this. This is quite unisex, would you say?
It is, yeah.
right? Yeah. So this is really nice. I did not give this to my husband. So
Yeah, that one is a reworking of the first version, but I mean I switched up the proportions to make it, much more woody on the base, and you still have like a lot of those tobacco notes. I mean, it is sweet, but it's kind of interesting how, switching up the proportions of some of the same materials will give you almost a completely different fragrance.
different. Yeah.
Then in a lot of the top notes, I did little touches of what you would find in very modern fragrances if you were to go into a department store.
Hmm.
So, right off the bat with those top notes, it may just read like very modern, almost kind of hip fragrance. But then
Yeah.
get more into it, it's like, oh no, there's a little bit more than just, mass market on
Hmm.
fragrance.
You're right
But
about that. It's beautiful. I love it. You know what drew me to it? I'm Turkish. So when I saw the word dervish, I was like, what? What is this? Let's check this out. And then the crescent moon on the design, I was like, I wonder if this has any relationship to like Turkish heritage stuff. So I picked it up without looking it up. But that's what was appealing to me more than the scent. I mean, not more than the scent, just as much as the scent, I should be clear. But yeah, so it is good. So I did pick up your intention.
Great.
That's great. So you said that you did reach out to focus groups in a way, right? People at base notes and you asked
Oh
them,
yeah. Uh-huh.
do you still do that now?
I don't.
You don't, no more. This is
And
it.
if I do go online at all, it'll be, in the perfume making Facebook group.
The
And
technical aspect of it.
yeah, and if anything, I tend to lurk more than I ever post anything. Usually I can just look on there and find the answer, that I seek. And base notes, gosh, I think the last time I ever signed on there was maybe in 2022 or something.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have your stuff together. You're pretty confident that you've been doing this for a while. So many of your fragrances are a classical form, would you say, of like fougere or sheep? But they don't feel like replicas of existing perfumes. I didn't they're very familiar. I feel very nostalgic. I grew up in the 80s in LA, actually. So a lot of these perfumes reminded me of that time, but I can't put a finger on it and say it smells just like that, so they're not replicas. How do you work within these structures? Like, what rules do you follow and where do you deviate to make them so original?
My main thing is much of my fragrance collection, I hardly ever visit it. I don't wear fragrances anymore. And if anything, I may dig through my collection and kind of do a little sniff under the cap, just to remember something. But I just don't wear fragrances anymore because I don't want it to affect my work. I don't want to, smell something and then, maybe 3 months into a project, I realize I'm just recreating something that I smell. I mean, we're surrounded by fragrances, so I mean, it's going to be all around us, but I just don't want to be directly affected.
So, no perfume. Does your wife wear perfume?
She does sometimes, yeah.
She does. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question is this, even though you have the vintage vibe going right now and it's very aesthetically pleasing, I like it very much.
Yes.
There's definite nostalgia and there's a movement towards nostalgia too. And I know minimalism and clean girl stuff was dominating, but I think opulence and maximalism is just as beautiful now and kind of in demand. Do you do things, or are you looking to do things to push the boundaries and to get your perfumes into, I don't know, a more challenging position where they're maybe not going to appeal to everybody, but maybe experiment more and change things? Does that make sense? Did my question make sense? That sounded crazy.
Yeah, no. there's some of the fragrances that I come up with where I'm just thinking, no one's gonna like this, and I'll put it out anyways. My best seller is Mousse Illuminée, and I almost never release that fragrance. I mean, I had an idea of what I wanted, the style that I was looking for, and I hit the target. I had the prototype there, and I just kept going back to it. I'm just thinking, no one's gonna get it. They're just not gonna get it. And I was gonna scrap that whole project, and I just decided to just do it anyways. And it's one of my best sellers.
So you have good instinct is what it
Yeah.
is. What was the challenge for it? Like, why did you think people won't like it?
Because with there's the frankincense, there's a lot of like conifer notes in there. Um, it's it's got like a lot of camphor like notes in there. I mean,
So is it medicinal? Like, does it feel medicinal?
it can. I mean, between that and like with the laurel leaves, it's kind of clovey. It it's kind of a strange fragrance in a way. I mean, it kind of it hits the aesthetic that I was looking for, but it's kind of strange at the same time. There's like these kind of orange blossomy things going on in there. I just thought it was just a little too out there, even though it does come off as very vintage. It's very odd at the same time. But then maybe that was just the right amount of tension that just makes people want to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's different. It's
Yeah.
different. And that's, I guess, a way to make sure you don't follow the stream. I mean, if I smell one more vanilla perfume that's gourmand,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna jump off a bridge. It's just so much of the same. There's so much trend following. Now it's pear and peach. Like, what do you see right now that you're kind of avoiding in the trends? Like, do you watch trends on what's going on in the perfume world?
I don't.
You
Yeah.
don't. Good.
Yeah, I don't. I pretty much avoid forums and especially review sites. Last thing I want to see is a review of any of my fragrances.
Oh, of
Mm,
course.
Good or bad, I just don't want to read it. So I don't really visit forums at all.
Do you smell new releases and other perfumes? Like, do you find yourself when you're traveling or going to stores, do you go and test what other people are doing?
I don't, but when you're out and about, you'll smell things, you know, in the general public, and it's always those really strong kind of ambery. It's weird. It's like super super ambery, like where it smells almost like a mix of like wet paper and bleach. I don't know if
Oh,
it makes
yeah.
sense. It's just very strong.
Yeah, it's those aromas, synthetic aroma chemicals, right? So this last summer I was in south of France and we were at a lot of functions. And if I smelled a Kigala wood or Ambroxan
Oh,
one more time, I was going to pass out. That it was so overwhelming. And
um,
you know which perfumes have it. I mean, pretty much everybody was wearing three perfumes. That
yeah.
was it across the board. So this is so nice, such a beautiful, refreshing way to smell. I can tell you, I didn't smell like them. So
Well, you'd be surprised too that I mean the Akikala wood is as far as I know, that's not available for us regular folks yet.
oh, really? So
Yeah,
you have to have,
it's still a captive material, but Ambrox, I mean, obviously that's out there for everyone. I use that in many of my fragrances.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
That tuberose and moss fragrance that you
mm-hmm,
just pulled up right now.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that uses materials
But
like
you don't kill it with it. That's,
no,
I
no.
think, that's
Yeah,
the point that you don't pump it up with that so that it doesn't become this super perfume.
yeah.
Um, it is a strong perfume. When you put it on, you know I'm here, but I don't, within an hour, you have to get very close to me to smell it.
Yeah, it's not that fad that I hope if it hasn't died yet, I just hope it dies soon, the beast mode.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. The
It's
beast
just
mode. How do consumers, this is a side note, One of the things that I find, I follow everything. So I follow the fragrance industry. So by default, I also follow the social media people just to see what people are talking about and what they're saying. And that beast mode perfume has equated with quality, they
Mm.
falsely, in my opinion, falsely. And sillage and projection have all become equal and synonymous with high quality. And high quality perfumery is just something you cannot measure as a consumer. How would I know if this is high quality? If I like the smell of it, that's the only thing that I can say. This is high quality. It's not rough around the edges. It feels really good. It hits all the notes. It blends well in my skin and it's not drowning in aroma chemicals. For me, that's how I define a good quality perfume. But most of us don't know what good quality is. I don't know where you get your oils. I don't know how pure they are. How are they natural? Are they organic? How would you advise a consumer to break away from that noise and not to use sillage, projection, longevity, and beast mode as thresholds like points to meet in high quality perfume? How should one evaluate a perfume? Now, this is for a consumer like myself.
Well, taking the whole beast mode out of that equation, but all those other points that you mentioned, um, I'd say those all play a certain role in quality because I mean you're gonna want the perfume to work that certain magic. So I mean that those are definitely some points that you're gonna want to look at. But again, it doesn't need to blow the walls out of the house. Um, but I would say that you're looking for a certain richness. I mean, is there depth in there? I mean, are you smelling just one single thing and nothing else? Um, what I tend to notice is the central accord is what I call it. I don't know if there's an actual technical term. That's just what I call it in my mind. Um, if you take any well-known fragrance, I mean, you know it immediately. Like if someone sprays Eternity, I mean, you know immediately that it's Eternity. I mean, there's a central accord in them that makes it what it is. And I've smelled fragrances that, I mean, I couldn't even remember the name of them because, you smell it, it's like, yeah, it smells good or it smells okay, but it doesn't have that really identifiable mark to it that it is such and such fragrance.
Mm-hmm,
I don't know. That's what I look for when I look at fragrances.
mm-hmm,
Does it have that central accord? Does it have that depth? Does it take you somewhere? You
mm-hmm,
know,
mm-hmm.
I
Do
mean,
you look at longevity or do you care if it lasts on the skin? Should we care or should we just reapply?
um, I mean, if you're getting at least a couple of hours out of it, I'd say you're all right. I mean, you can always reapply, but I would say most fragrances out there on the market are going to be with you at least a good 8 hours. I mean, I've seen people complain about fragrances saying, "Oh yeah, it only lasts a half an hour on my skin," and I'm thinking maybe they're just kind of getting a little nose blind to their own fragrance, or if it's like one of your daily wears. I mean, there's a point where your brain's just gonna kind of shut it out. But I mean, you are gonna want it to last. I mean, to a certain degree. I,
Yeah,
I don't
so
know about like 3+ days of.
yeah, I want it to wash off.
Yeah. Mhm.
There are some perfumes that I've tested recently where no, I can't do it. It's just so tacky and sticky and so synthetic and that's hard. That's a hard wear for me. I like natural, but the natural parts you struggle with longevity, which I don't care about longevity. I honestly don't care about longevity. I know that a perfume is based on when experts look at it, it's the dry down. For
Mhm.
me, I'm a novice. I'm not an expert. I like top and middle notes.
Mhm.
That's what I like. So I often find myself every 2, 3 hours, I'll respray it because I want the top and middle notes again.
Yeah.
The dry down is great, but that's not what I love. I live for the thrill of it, the first spray. That's what I like.
Mhm.
And so, but like you said, it has to have a heart, whether it's the top, middle, or base, and an identifiable factor. And yours definitely do have that. Um, what is your best selling among women?
That is it. It's fluctuated a lot. It used to be the Champmonnet. The I thought I saw you pull up a bottle of that as well.
I have
That right
the,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one. Uh, and then I would say it follows by uh, Two Rolls of Moss and Dervish 2.
Okay, so I followed your trends. I That's what I
Yeah. And then
got.
the shipper though, it's I mean, like in the 20s, that would have been considered a women's fragrance. I would say by today's standards, that's definitely more
More,
unisex.
yeah,
And it sells pretty much 50-50.
yeah.
Men or women will purchase that one.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. It's beautiful. This one I wore it to a volleyball game. My daughter's a volleyball player in college, and I have to tell you, it was one of the most complimented perfumes. And when I get compliments, I get very shy because I think I'm overwhelming people, and it's too much. Like I get
Yeah.
scared when somebody says your perfume is so nice. I'm like, oh, did I kill people? So
Yeah.
I get very shy. But no, this was women were asking me to take it out of my bag so they can put it on too. So very, very, very beautiful perfume. I really like it. I really love your brand. So with that, let's go back to IFRA compliance and regulations and safety of your products. I know that you don't have a current relationship with IFRA or the EU policies, right, for fragrance safety. Can you tell
I
me a little bit of that?
yeah, I don't. However, I do keep up to date. I had to educate myself on that. Um, in the beginning I was thinking that well, very naively, certain materials like oak moss I thought things like that were just like completely banned. And so I thought that just using any at all was like, you're sticking it to the man or something. So I used to push that in the very beginning, the whole non-EFA thing. And it just got to a point where at least to me, it kind of seemed a little bit infantile, just I I wasn't really even knowledgeable about all of it, and I'm going against this thing. So I looked into it, and I try to keep myself educated with it. Although I I'm not following EU regulations or the EFA recommendations, down to the T. But I do keep them in mind because I mean I don't want to harm my customers.
Of course.
But so I want to at least be aware of that. But another thing too is I rash up very easily with fragrances. So there's a lot of things that I was kind of doing already intuitively, like as far as, the amounts of citrus oils I was using or certain materials that just would make me rash up like crazy. A lot of these things I was already somewhat avoiding, but um, a, a good amount of my fragrances, at least at the time I had this done, this was in 2022, I want to say, I I sent them out to a lab because I was just curious.
Hmm.
And I found out that for the most part, they're mostly within the guidelines of 2022. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure, it's changed a lot since then, so I can't say what it's
We
like.
have new rules this year, right? That they have to implement by October, I think.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
to
and
find all the newest ones, but as of 2022, they were actually mostly within. It just kind of seemed like dumb luck, and I don't know if that was just because the way I was formulating, where I'd be able to wear the fragrances myself or not.
hmm. Well, that makes sense. Using yourself as a guinea pig. Do you do any kind of safety testing that's not IFRA or EU stuff?
No, I mean I just avoid things that I know are
Known
unsafe.
allergens. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I could see that. So with that said, you are able to sell in Europe, though, right? I heard you have distribution in Hungary and somewhere else.
in Spain,
Spain, that's right.
huh?
So
Yes,
you can sell.
EU, and then also in the UK. They sell at their own risk.
Ah, got you.
Uh-huh.
Got you. Yeah. Sell at your own risk. You might fall in love, but I
I
don't know anything else. Yeah.
do list all the, potential allergens are always listed in the ingredients, and so the consumer can, decide for themselves.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't allow that to begin with all of it, and allow us to experience the fragrances in full strength and full form using all the raw materials that are available. And if I'm allergic to it, let me choose not to use it and not decide for everybody. Because what was it? I was talking to Sarah McCartney from 4,160
Mhm.
Tuesdays. She was saying the amount of people that are allergic to these things are such a minuscule percentage. That's
Yeah,
really not the majority of the people are not allergic to these things. So
yeah,
it's a hyper cautiousness, I guess.
it is. But I mean, there's some of these materials that are just bad for you overall, like where, it's not necessarily going to make you rash up, but you just don't want it in your system.
Right, right.
Mm.
I could see that. So with that said, I would like to know, do you have perfumers or perfumes that you absolutely adore?
Yeah, I like the the original Bellamy by Hermes. I mean, I would say that's one of my overall favorites. Um, the Trussardi, the one that came in that black bottle. Those are the two that really stick out to me. And the Bogart signature is another one. I mean, it's got a lot of those kind of piney leather
Hmm.
notes.
Very nice. Any perfumers? Any of the well-known godfathers or godmothers of perfumery?
I've always really admired what Sheldrake has done. I mean, a lot of those Serge Lutens fragrances, I was purchasing so many of those in, was it like the but earlier 2000s when I was collecting a lot of those, and those were always fun and fascinating fragrances. And
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of those fragrances inspired me to want to learn more about creating perfumes.
Yeah, he's pretty spectacular.
Sure.
Um, do you still collect and study vintage perfumery, or you just have what you have?
I just have what I have.
How many bottles do you own?
Right now I might have about somewhere in the realm of 300.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I used to have a much larger collection, and I offloaded a lot of it. Gosh,
Kept the
years
best.
actually not maybe around that about 12 years ago or so. I think I offloaded a lot of it.
That's nice. How many was it at its maximum?
At its maximum, I was almost double. I'd say over 700 bottles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it sneaks up on you. I'm getting up there to a number where I'm not very proud, where it's taking up my closet over clothes. So, with that said, can you tell me a little bit about your future plans, what new releases you have coming up, and what should we be looking for as big fans of Rogue Perfumery?
Uh, I have a new release coming out mid-March. It's actually that's just weeks away. It's part of I'm starting a new line within Rogue, and it's going to be called the Rogue Reserve Collection is what it's going to be. This is going to be I guess you can consider it a higher tier fragrances. It's going to focus on only naturals. Because right now, what I now call my core EDT line, those are, obviously, mixed media. I'd say, they're about 60-40 synthetics to naturals. Um, I thought I would revisit mixing natural fragrances like the way I first started experimenting when I went out and got those, essential oils and mixed them up and made mud.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of made the whole journey come full circle in a way. And, I want to put these together where, you know, I just thought it'd be kind of neat and fun to work within the constraints of natural perfumery because, there's lots of constraints and I just thought it'd be a great challenge. And to make, fragrances that not only stand out, but will perform like a fine fragrance.
Hmm.
You know, it it's real easy for a natural fragrance to um smell like, something at the health food store or something. It's just it's just really difficult. And that's because, every single, whether it's an absolute or an essential oil, I mean, those alone are composed of, hundreds of materials. So, once you start mixing them, you get all these things colliding. It's very challenging.
Hmm.
So I'm opening up the first fragrance is it's gonna be Mousse Illuminée Grand Cru. It's an all natural interpretation of a Mousse Illuminée. I did that mostly for continuity. But after that, every fragrance that comes in in the Rogue Reserve line, they are going to be their own new
Okay.
fragrances. Yeah. I'm
Hmm.
not doing reworks of everything.
Hmm.
I was just doing that one too to introduce the line.
That's smart. So there's a thread that goes through the collections. Will the pricing be different?
Pricing will be different. Yeah. The materials are quite pricey to begin with. So right now we're looking at 285 American for a 50 ml bottle.
Okay. And what is your current 50 mLs retail?
Current sizes in my Core ADT line are 30 ml and 75.
That's right.
85 US for the 30 ml,
Hmm.
156
So
for
this is the 30 ml, right?
that's a 30. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have it bigger. Otherwise, I would have bought it bigger. And then this is the larger one,
75. Yeah.
75. This
Mhm.
is really nice. Your bottles are very nice. I like your graphics. Do you designed all of this?
I do. Yeah.
That's
Um,
crazy.
it's I don't know how I managed to do it, but I'll get an idea for the label and I put them together on Microsoft Word. I just layer and layer and layer upon layer of text boxes. And so I get what's kind of in my mind. And then I'll usually PDF that and then send it off to, a designer so they can make it an actual,
Polish it. Hmm.
yeah, make an actual vector
Hmm.
file that I can send to a print company.
Hmm. Are you looking for outside investments? Will you look for new partners, more distribution? Are we going to see these perfumes in more places? Like, what are your general plans for your company?
I'm always looking to grow. That's for sure. Um, which is also why I am starting the new reserve line. I want to see, what new horizons that might bring. For last few years, I was wondering if with my main fragrances, did I kind of paint myself into a bit of a corner, with the whole vintage vibe thing, am I just the vintage fragrance guy? And I found that it was just really getting in the way of, what I was wanting to create. And so it's kind of what pushed me towards this new line. I get to work with definitely a different palette. Uh,
Hmm.
I, I I gotta I gotta really think outside the box in putting these fragrances together too. It just the intuition is just a whole lot different than what I would do with a mixed media fragrance.
Hmm.
So something that I normally go heavy on with my EDTs when it comes to the natural fragrances, I mean the proportions are just so much different. And I don't know if it's that way with other natural perfumers, but it's just the way I've had to approach it.
Hmm.
I've had to approach it very counterintuitively.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's just been fun.
Are you going to be sourcing your materials from different labs now, like with the distillation? And since you're going to be working with natural ingredients, are you looking outside of what you currently buy from?
As needed. I mean, I find a good amount from Eden Botanicals. I mean, they bring in some really nice products. Um, I've had to look elsewhere for certain materials like champaka.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, it they were out of stock, and I'm having to source more places. Like White Lotus was one of them.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm just having to put my feelers out there and just, find more sources. So I don't want to like have a creation and then, within the first few months of release, I'm going to have to discontinue it.
Hmm. Yeah, because you can't get reliable sourcing of your materials. Yeah, I could
Mhm.
see that being a problem. There are really good independent labs in France that and Italy too that distill and that work with the farmers directly and are able to source the materials in a consistent way. When you said Grand Cru, I thought of
Mhm.
one brand. I'll send it to you. I'm sure you're familiar with them. It's a long French name, so I'm not going to butcher it here, but
Uh,
I'll send it to you in email. They have really, really good source material and reliable and dependable too. Well,
and
anyway.
I need to correct myself. That's Hermitage oils is what it
Huh.
is. Yeah,
Okay.
because I think White Lotus is I think they went out of business if I'm not mistaken.
Well, thank you so much,
Mm.
Manuel. This was a pleasure. I really appreciated your honesty and openness and sharing your perfume house with us and your inspirations. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me on.